In yesterday's inferno outside Waco wasted little time today in blaming the authorities and the FBI in particular for the horrific outcome of the 7-week siege.
I think they went about this thing wrongly from the beginning. I don't think they did care about those folks in the tent anymore. I think they got a bit bored and tired of the situation, and they wanted to end it in spite of the outcome.
The reaction of such relatives is perhaps understandable, but from the FBI's point of view, they were dealing with a cult which had shot dead 4 agents at the start of the siege. For 7 weeks after, the FBI had acted with what some thought was remarkable constraint, but then they seemed to lose patience.
We will continue to gas them and make their environment as uncomfortable as possible.
But today, a number of experts on the conduct of sieges who know about similar events in Britain are clearly surprised by some aspects of the handling of the events in Waco.
Tanks is a very, very heavy-handed way of doing things. There are much smaller, more efficient methods to break through not only timber, but glass structures, this type of thing. And possibly using a different time of day rather than in broad daylight, and certainly warning Korash. If you're going to go in, although there are innocent bystanders, it is much better to go in and try and get as many people out as you possibly can without causing the carnage that we actually saw yesterday.
I am concerned that it went on for so long. But I think that may well be linked to the fact that when you have a religious fanatic, you do have a particularly difficult situation. And the key to that situation is about managing the psychology and managing, if you like, the persuasion process. And in recent years, there has been, to my mind, a tendency to move a little bit away from the psychological aspect of these situations and more towards a hard-nosed military intervention.
What's clear from yesterday's events is that once the FBI had sent in the tanks to ram holes in the buildings, and once it had pumped in tear gas, it seemed to have no other plan of action. They simply hoped that the people would be forced out, even though they apparently had gas masks. But for hours nothing happened until the building erupted in flames at about midday. Some experts are perplexed by these tactics, saying the element of surprise is vital.
Certainly in this country, when an operation such as this is handed over to the military, it's done as quickly as possible without any warning to anybody, certainly not the people inside. Why stun grenades weren't used at Waco, again, we'll have to wait and see.
In the Iranian embassy siege in London 13 years ago, there was no warning. The SAS stormed in and those inside were taken, it seems, by complete surprise. The operation was over in less than a minute. However, all but one of the terrorists inside were killed. According to some psychologists, there are uniquely difficult problems of dealing with a siege in which the participants have special religious beliefs, in which there may be a willingness to die, ingredients common to both London and the Waco sieges.
When you're talking about a religious fanatic, you're dealing very much with the beliefs level of a person. So what is vitally important if you want to resolve this sort of situation without physical force is you have to get into the mind of the siege taker. Possibly in this one there may have been a need for an extra psychological input on the persuasion side, just to understand where the people were coming from, particularly the ringleader inside, and particularly to get into the persuasion mode on this beliefs level, which is the key to it, I'm sure.
8 years ago in Philadelphia, the American authorities, faced with the siege by armed black cult members, took drastic action. They dropped a stun bomb on the house. The result was disastrous, killing 5 people and gutting 60 wooden houses in the area. The suspicion tonight is that in Waco the authorities became impatient and, abandoning persuasion, took the same sort of tough action, with even more disastrous results.
Well, now joining us from Washington